Entertainment 61, and across the microphone, Billy Eckstine. Billy, you and I have chatted before into the wee small hours of the morning.
That's right.
And just for some off-the-cuff ideas, in your opinion, what would revitalize certain areas of show business? Let's start with the in-person business. Clubs and entertainment have had a little battle in the last few years, in fact, since World War II.
That's right. Well, I don't know, to tell you the truth. I think, I think a lot of it has to do with television, that people sit at home and watch a lot of entertainment, which I can't fault either because I do the same thing when I'm at home. But, and people are really, in a way, they come out to see something that they definitely want to see, where before people would come out just because it was, the new attraction came in and they would come and see it.
Do you think people know more about what they like in the way of entertainment, or more selective?
I think so. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I don't think you can shove anything down anyone's throat now. They come especially to see. That is the grown-up adult nightclub audience.
A mature audience.
Yeah.
You don't, would you pass on this? Do you think there should be more places like Las Vegas?
Well, being very mercenary, being very mercenary, I think there should be, because it would be more work for people in my business, because Las Vegas, I guess, and the state of Nevada, I should say, is probably the mecca for show business now, as far as the...
It means that you can work as a showman should, doesn't it? Aside
That's
from
right.
the fact that Las Vegas has a subtitling of lost wages.
Yes, and that it is also. I mean, but I think for the entertainment dollar, Las Vegas is the biggest bargain in the world. If somebody goes there and doesn't go hog wild on the tables,
yes.
Because there's very little. I don't think anywhere in the world where you can go and see attractions such as Red Skull. Well, any one that you name, and take your wife and yourself and go into a nightclub, have dinner, and see these people and walk out with about a $10, $12 check.
Well, this is what the tables do. They support the entertainment,
That's right.
don't they?
That's right. Of course, the owners would hate me for saying don't come there and gamble.
Of course they would.
In fact, they may cancel my contract.
Perhaps we can just touch on one other thought. There's another area of show business, really, and that is the revitalizing of the band business. Now, your heart, of course, has been nourished in Earl Father Hines' band and your own band, which was full of many wonderful names like Fats Navarro and Dizzy Gillespie and Sarah Vaughan and Charlie Parker, and you name some others.
Well, I think, like I always like to say, when people say, who was in that band? I said, well, you just start naming, and I'll tell you whether they were in there or not, because practically everyone at some time or another passed through my band in the 4 years that I had it. I mean, those are progressive jazz.
And this, of course, was the brain center of modern jazz today. You were the IBM center, really.
We had a lot of fun. We were pioneering new ideas, and it was more or less a school. At the moment, though, we didn't know that it was going to be the schooling or the kindergarten or the elementary school, whichever way you want to call it, of show business in the progressive jazz field. We didn't know it then. We were playing what we wanted to hear.
You enjoyed this.
Oh, that's the biggest kicks of my life.
I'm sure. Well, now, how would you suggest that the band business be revitalized? I'm sure this has been discussed in every way. And
you know what? It's a funny thing, Leigh, about this. A lot of people say, do you think bands will ever come back? Well, I think bands, as they were, as such, I don't think that they will come back in that particular case. Now, I may be wrong. This is only my opinion. Because during the days when there were the Goodmans and the Bassies, the original Bassies, the Benny Goodmans and Tommy Dorseys in that era, Lunsford, the kids were dancing to that particular type of music and beat. And they were very hip, and they knew exactly what they wanted to hear. Then there were other bands such as your Sammy Kaye's, Sammy Kaye, Guy Lombardo, and that era for the people who danced the kids who danced a different style, more of a society type dancing. But the jitterbug era, was in those particular bands that I named first. Now you have kids are dancing a different beat to music, wherein the big bands don't play that. Now, if you noticed, during that era, everyone, when a band would strike up a good tempo, they would clap, say like on the 1 and 3. You know, I mean on the 2 and 4. Now kids, they clap on like this here, you know, like on like a polka style. You know, it's not the same beat, and so in order for bands to come back now as such as they were, the kids have got to dance. Kids made the bands, you know, in those days.
They certainly
dancing
did.
up and down the aisles in the Paramount and all of those traditional things that happened, and all of the different ballrooms throughout the country. They made the bands, and they were predominantly done by kids who make any mode of things in music like that. Like kids made rock and roll. But by the same token, now the kids are dancing on a different beat. You very seldom, sometimes you watch, you should pardon the expression, Dick Clark's show.
Yes,
And if you notice these kids, if they're playing something, they're going pop, 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 like which to us who came up in the band school, that is the corniest way in the world to clap. You're clapping, we always learn how to 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, like that.
Well, actually, this is a wonderful beat for this territory.
Yeah.
Whoopi John, who is just a memory now, and Fez Fritchie and his Goosetown Band. And
Well, as I say, that was
Frankie
more or
Yankovic.
less of a polka style.
actually, you would relate some of the rhythms of the current rock and roll era to
Country and Western.
country and western.
Yeah.
This is certainly an interesting observation. Never related it to country and western because I thought it had roots and rhythm and blues and folk music.
It started. Now, there is a difference. Now, rhythm and blues and rock and roll have, I think, become two different facets of this so-called music today.
I vote for that, too.
You know,
Joe Turner as opposed to Elvis Presley.
that's right. Now, I like Joe Turner very much.
But
I
he's a
like-
folk singer.
Yes,
and a
but
blues
Joe
singer.
sings blues, real blues, and good blues. But by the same token, if you hear Joe Turner, you're going to clap on 2 and 4 if you're going to be right. You wouldn't clap on 1 and 3 with him, no kind of way. Ray Charles, who is my favorite, I guess everyone else who appreciates good soulful things will enjoy Ray Charles. But by the same token, the other ones, like we'll say, and I'm
Bobby
not
V.
doing, yeah, or these weird names, these Conway Twitties and these kind of things like that, which sounds like a gag to announce one of these records, you know.
It is a daily gag, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure, you know. You can't, they even call it rockabilly and all these things, which is nothing, but if you
It's
turn
really
way
a
back,
hybrid music, isn't it?
that's all it is. If you turn
Like
back
corn.
and play some of these things years ago, they were in the same groove as Ernest Tubbs and Red Foley and these kind of things. They're hillbilly music is what it is.
Are you suggesting then that a band today, if it were going to organize, you know, and you're going to, you know, outline books for 5 brass and 5 reed and, you know, a full rhythm section to play 1 and 3 arrangements as far as rhythm and
Well,
time?
that's the way it sounds like to me. Like you take, for instance, now these things that they're playing now. They have that beat of the umka-jinka, 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 umka-jinka. Well, that's this kind of rhythm, you know? It's what it is. And, geez, I get nothing out of it. Well, maybe I'm old hat, but I thank God I am because I don't dig it because it's too fundamental. It's too elementary.
Do you think there's a key to it in such exciting bands as Pres Prado and
Oh, well,
Tito?
Pres Prado and Tito Puente, they're in a class by themselves. They're playing wonderfully executed passages and good musicians.
With many different kinds of rhythms
That's right.
going at
Good
the same
rhythms
time.
going. Those are the good Latin rhythms. But now you take, for instance, the New Basie Band, which is my heart, because that's my groove. You listen to that, and if you would try to clap on 1 and 3, you'd stick out like a sore thumb, and then I think the waiter would take you out of the joint, you know.
You don't think then that it's possible for a big band to evolve today that would be playing 1 and 3 for the new generation?
No, because I don't think it. In the first place, the musicians that you're going to have to get in those bands, they're schooled in another way. You know, you're going. In other words, to get a 15-piece band of all guys playing bad, which is what it's going to have to be, you know. You know, it's really what it's got to be, man. They've got to learn how to just take the horn out of their case and don't tune it and forget about it and play. I'm going to tell you a little incident. This happened, as God be my judge, this happened. I was working in Crystal Bay up in Lake Tahoe not too long ago. There was a group of girls, I won't mention their name. It's another fetish of mine. It's girl musicians. If anything, to me, is distasteful to see a woman standing up honking a tenor saxophone or beating drums or taking a drum solo. You know, it doesn't look good to me. Well, anyhow.
You like your women definitely feminine.
That's right. Let them, harps, yes, something like that. Or violin, yeah, that's about the borderline. But after that, when they start honking tenors, you know, forget it. Because they don't play good. They don't get the sound out of the horn. But anyhow, we were up on the stand, and these girls alternated with us in Lake Tahoe, and they were a rock and roll, rockabilly, or whatever you want to call it. So we were going off the stand, and one of the girls was playing this Fender bass, you know, which is, well, she said, will you give me an A? For laughs, I hit B flat on the piano, you know. She tuned her instrument up. Do you listen to me now? Tuned it up, using the B flat as what she thought was A, and played the rest of the night with it like this, and knew no difference whatsoever.
With the volume control full
all the way
out.
And the others in the group paid no attention either. They were right along with her. They didn't even hear it. And we, the musicians in my group, we sat back in the joint where we've passed out all night as they get up there, and she was just playing a half a tone out of key, and it was no difference whatsoever to all the rest of them, as long as it was loud, you know.
Well, that's certainly a fine observation of what some of the modern musicians are doing today. And I know that once upon a time I asked Tommy Dorsey what he thought of the new crop of musicians coming up, and I think it was perhaps the last year that he was in the business, and he felt very seriously that most of the fellows were on bands today for, well, all that they could get and very little of the discipline involved, and certainly this must have driven Tommy to the end of the line.
Well, yes, you have, that's another thing I will say, I mean this in another side of it. Speaking of progressive jazz, you have musicians now who have taken modern jazz, we'll say, that was, well, your masters of it, the fundamentalists of it, or the idols of it was a better word. Bird, Charlie Parker, and Thelonious Monk, Dizzy, Miles, and a few of the boys like that. Some of these kids now have come along, and just because the note is weird that they play, it's great, you know. Have no idea of chord structures, don't know what they're doing. Don't stop to realize that these guys that I aforementioned are schooled musicians, and everything that they played were built on chords, structures, or chord supplements to go with what they were playing. But these guys will stand up and play the weirdest things in the world. We were working at Paramount Theater, this was about 10 years ago, with Pete Rugolo. Pete Rugolo put a studio band in there to back me in the Paramount. We had one fellow with us, and he came in at rehearsal. He sat in and he played. And at the end of the rehearsal, he told Pete, he said, man, I'm going to send somebody else in. He said, because I don't want to make this gig. So Pete said, well, why? What's the trouble? He said, well, I've been studying with, well, I don't want to mention his name either because it sounds like I'm throwing rocks at him, but he said, I've been studying with him, and my ear is trained to what he's doing, and I don't want to get it confused with this square kind of music. Now, here's a musician.
Sounds like it could be Tristano, but I won't say anything
exactly. More. So help me God, exactly who it was. Here's who this kid was studying with. But here's a musician now. We were always taught that if the notes are up there on that fence, on that bar, on this measures or on your staff, play them. Regardless of what it is, play it. You're a musician, play the music. But no, his scope has gotten so narrow till he wants to play only what he wants to play.
Which brings up something. Do you think there's a certain school of thought in music today, and that's modern jazz music, that, you know, completely forgets the tradition, the warmth, the showmanship of it, as was exhibited in the Jimmy Lunceford Band, which was...
Oh, yeah. Well, that was music and entertainment combined, which is a rare combination, you know. Most of the time, your musicians that wear the funny hats can't play anything. They're wearing the funny hat to cover up for their musicianship, which is at a low ebb. But with the Lunsford Band, you could find no fault with what they were playing or their little cute things that they did.
Because their sense of humor was a mighty sound and real thing,
That's
wasn't
right.
it?
But now some of these guys have gotten so, I mean, I like to call it blueprint jazz. You know, you have to walk in, you sit down, and you don't know what I've been in music all my life, and you sit down, I don't know what they're playing, you know, and I know I have an open mind as towards good music, but I don't know what they're doing half the time, you know, they're constant fugues and so and pretty soon it's just saying, stop already, you know, let me pat my foot. You know?
It would be much more fun to listen to a chamber music group where they're
That's
having
right.
a ball
Whether
and
you're going there to hear
keeping
that.
the reference
That's right.
proper and true.
I think that has hurt modern jazz with a lot of these pseudo-modern jazz musicians who are not qualified at all, you know. We had a kid once, well, this was in Europe, of course, we worked in Paris. No, it was in Antwerp, Belgium, and the musician in the band, they had a nice, wonderful band, good musicians, could read good, but the drummer, he was playing a-jink-a-dum, 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 a-jink, like this behind us. So Bobby went to him and he said, look, on his sock cymbal he was playing this. So he said, look, don't accent on that, accent on the other beat, he said, because it doesn't fit in with this. So he looked at Bobby like Bobby Tucker, my pianist and conductor, like Bobby was the biggest square in the world. He said, well, Art Blakey plays this. See? Well, now Art started in my band. He's from my home. And I said, no, I said, so he played me a record. He said, I'll bring it in and show it to you. He brought me in a record where Art used this for one bar or two bars to more or less flavor what he was doing, like he would play like that. Well, this kid kept it through the whole thing. And pretty soon I felt like somebody was hitting me in the head with a hammer, you know.
Which is somewhat true of the European jazz musician who only extracts and doesn't.
That's right.
And of course doesn't know the tradition.
That's right.
With reference to some of the new faces in entertainment, Bill, you think the younger generation is suffering from delusions of grandeur? I might mention one name in particular, Paul Anka, but I don't want you to editorialize on Paul particularly. He may be more talented than the rest, but there are the brand of young musician entertainer coming up today. Delusion of grandeur?
Some of them have.
But wasn't it the same in your day, too?
Well, sure.
When you were breaking in and developing
too.
your professional skills?
Oh, yeah, we had swell heads, too, and we had sort of deaf ears to certain things that we didn't want to hear. Like when we first started with the progressive things, like the ear that we were trained to listen, that we wanted to hear, like our school, we didn't care too much about stereotype Dixie music because it seemed more or less elementary. The tailgate trombone and all of this, we were trying, after our guys that we love were J.J. and Benny Green and Kay Winding and some of the different guys like who were executing the trombone instead of using it as just a more or less a rhythmic pattern, something like that, you know. We wouldn't listen. It sounded so elementary. So we had our own views about those things, and maybe we were a bit caustic too, because I know now I can listen to Dixie and enjoy it. I love Pee Wee Hunt. In fact, he's in town, isn't he?
I wish you were sitting right here. We'd have a ball.
Yeah.
The tradition of the old Casaloma band.
Sure, well, that was a good band. See, that was a great band, see.
It was an excellent business organization, I understand, too.
Sure,
a corporation with stockholders. Billy, if you were to choose another career, say doctor, lawyer, whatever, would you practice in the same way that you've practiced in learning?
Well, I think so. I think you have to be truthful about these things. Like, you know, I think you have to, I don't think you can hurry up and run around and do a whole lot of different, take this guy's mode of doing things if you're very well versed in your own way of thinking. I think if you start on a certain path and then here comes a guy along, you jump off and grab his, and then you step back a little bit. But I don't mean just throw a deaf ear to everybody. I mean, still have an open mind. But I mean, if you start out, say, as a progressive jazz musician, and then all of a sudden you say, well, no, I want to play like, I don't like that, I'm going to play like him. And then you say, well, I don't like him either, I'm going to play like him. And pretty soon, I don't like him, I'm like, pretty soon you haven't gone anywhere.
Well, it takes a good surgeon, I suppose, to specialize in the area of brain surgery.
That's right.
It takes him about 12 years to reach this plateau. How about a musician such as you? When did you, have you felt that you've reached any plateaus?
No. And I think when the time comes when a person thinks that they've reached that echelon that they've achieved, well, you no longer learn. And music, that's why they always say there's never been a finished musician, because you can always learn. You can always hear something else. You can always learn something about music. That's the great thing about it. It's so open. There's plenty of things to learn. And singing especially, I hear things that every day that I enjoy. I enjoy singers that some people wouldn't listen to. But I understand what they're doing. There's certain things I like about them.
When I made that reference to the brain surgeon, he can practice brain surgery after the 12th year. I'm sure, of course, that he learns, because this is a rare skill, too. Musicians are interested in many other things, otherwise they wouldn't be in the entertainment field. How about you in baseball?
I love it. And my Dodgers have gotten bombed.
Do you think something has happened to the Dodgers since they moved from Brooklyn?
No, I don't think a thing has happened to them that way. I just think that this last week, boy, they really have taken a bath. They jumped right out of it altogether. And I think that we have the nucleus of one of the greatest teams, and I think, to use the old Brooklyn adage, wait till next year, you know.
Say, as a California fan, anything like the Brooklyn Dodger fan?
Yes.
I'd like to call Phil Foster in on this, but...
well, Phil Foster he's hurting because they took the Dodgers away from him.
Well,
so I told Phil, I said, well, why don't you do the same thing? Move to California.
This is really the only...
I was a Dodger fan when they were in Brooklyn. Loved them.
This is the only hope for a Dodger fan today.
That's right.
I understand the barber shops and the hotels and the pubs aren't the same.
Yeah, well, no, but now they're at loss there. But if you go to California, you'll see
Is a California fan different from the Dodger fan?
Well, they're just as rabid. They're just as rabid, and they boost for that Dodger team.
Dialect means nothing.
No, the dialect don't mean anything. You know, we have a lot of New Yorkers in California, too.
Well, I'm sure of that. I was just sort of probing to...
Sure.
How about the Twins? Have you seen them play either in
I've seen them on television, that's all, and they look real good. As a matter of fact, the other night I met their manager, Sam Mele, who was a wonderful friend. He came to me and brought me a message from Tony Bennett that he'd seen Tony in Kansas City, and Tony delivered a message to me that I'll tell you after we go off the air.
All right, we'll hold that top secret. And I'll be like the guy who was carrying messages.
But Billy
to
Martin's
Garcia.
a good friend of mine, and Danny McDevitt. They came in the other night with their wives. As a matter of fact, Danny's wife asked me to sing "Danny Boy." I haven't sung it since I was in high school, and I struggled through it some kind of way because she wanted me to sing it for Danny. I did. And Earl Battey is a friend of mine. I have a lot of friends in the boys and the Twins, and I think. The next year you're going to see a real good ball club here.
Do you have any attitudes on the aspect of physical fitness as affects, let's say, the entertainer?
Well, you must. I think in order, you know, it's a lot of people get the wrong idea, which is not really a wrong idea, but they see a guy. It's gradually being beaten down. Thank God. It used to be the jazz musician had such a bad name. He was either a lush head or a dope addict, perverted in some weird way, strictly because of the way some of them carried themselves. But on a 99% or 100% bracket, if you look at it through, I think there's no more lush heads or perverts or narcotic users in the jazz musician field than there is in anything else.
Well, I think with regard particularly to these things, he ranks sixth in the scale of,
That's right.
of evils that attack the human beings.
That's right, of course.
Well, now
but
this
see,
matter
he
of...
is in prominence all the time. That's the reason why his name gets in the paper. But by the same token, say a bricklayer uses narcotic. They wouldn't put that in the paper.
Well, you're in excellent... Billy, you're in excellent physical condition.
I stay in pretty good shape.
What is it, golf? The outdoors and the fresh air in California that does this?
Well, I play a lot of golf when I'm at home. I play a lot of golf, and I have 7 kids, and I got to keep in shape with those. I have 3 of them are teenagers.
And are they all boys?
Oh, 5 boys, 2 girls.
Well, that makes it mighty competitive for you, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, because you know how it is then. Dad, you're never old. You know, I get on the side of the house maybe and play touch football or basketball with her or something, and pretty soon I get a little winded. I say, well, look, I'm going to sit down a little. Come on, you're not tired. Come on, come on, let's beat these. Boy, and I feel like I'm going to die. I'm so tired.
Actually, golf is the mainstay, though, isn't it?
Oh, yes, now.
What do you shoot?
Well, I did have a 4 handicap. I'm up to about 8 now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't played enough. In this last trip, I played once in about, I guess about 2.5 months. 'Cause I've been
Well, what's your
traveling quite
best
a bit.
score of...
Best score I had was 68 once.
And
But I was playing, that was about 3 years ago. I was playing real good. I was playing every day then.
you would like to have been a professional golfer, wouldn't you?
Well, everybody, you know, it's a funny thing. I guess everybody's that way. Whatever your chosen walk of life is, there's always something else. The grass is always greener on the other side of the street, the old adage, you know.
But there can be some days on the green when it isn't so green.
You better believe it. But after I pick up the papers and read about these pros that are out here, guys shoot 12 or 14 under par for 3-4 rounds, and he doesn't even finish in the money, you know. I said, no, I'm in the right racket.
Billy Eckstine, thanks very much. View
It's a
61.
pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me by.